Hey, welcome back to CM Morning Show. It's time for our business talk segment, and today we have certified financial planner with us, Metta Anggriani, to talk about financial strategies for the sandwich generation.
Which is us.
It sounds delicious.
Which is everyone, right? But Metta, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having
on this
me here.
May Day.
Yes.
All right, first question.
Yeah.
The sandwich generations. All right, so faces complex challenges. How can one create a balanced budget to manage our expenses for both parents and families?
Yes, I think before I answer to your questions, I think we have to talk about the ideal figure about the financial management for the sandwich generations. Because as you mentioned, the sandwich generation has like a double burden, right? They have to take care of themselves.
That's right.
They have to take care of the kids, the one generation below, and then we have to take care of the parents, one generation above, right? So with that many dependents, I think we have to ensure that the finance management for the sandwich generation should be quite conservative, because we have to focus on what is priorities for the family, right? And then the second, because we have too many dependents as well, we have to ensure that our finance is liquid, because we have to anticipate if whenever comes the risk from all that possible dependence happening, we have to cover that.
Yes.
Right? So that's the fund is conservative, and then to be liquid enough. So then we talk about the budget, how to create a balanced budget for the sandwich generation. I think first we talk about the expenses. I mean, what has to cover in your monthly expenses. I think for the sandwich generation, first we have to take care of ourselves. So we have to ensure that we have to pay the insurance expense for ourselves.
Yes.
Health insurance, BPJS or additional. As well, if you can have a life insurance, that would be better. Yeah, because what? Because we cannot afford to be sick, because other people's counting on us, right? Yeah, so, and then the second, if we have to cover our parents' expense, especially if we give them a routine monthly supporting fund, so I think it's better to be included in your budget as well, because that's the the expenses that you have to give out as well.
The monthly allowances for our
allowance,
parents.
right. And then, I think that's for the expense. And then, of course, you have to budget for savings, right? So you have to set aside some money from saving, and and there's quite a lot of savings that you have to manage, because you have quite a lot of financial goals as well for the future and for the expense now, right? So now, first is that you have to ensure that you have emergency fund. As I mentioned, we have to be liquid, right?
Yeah.
So the emergency fund should be always available whenever we need. And for sandwich generation, I think it should be quite big enough as well, like 12 times of your monthly expenses. Of course, it was not built at one time, right?
Yes.
So you have to be, slowly put aside some money for your emergency fund, and you don't use it unless it is emergency, right?
I'm always afraid of liquid money, because it's just,
Right.
oh, there's money there.
There's so many temptations out there.
Right. And then the second, what savings do you need for? If you have kids, you have, I mean, like, the most predicted expenses that may be available for your kids is for the education expense. It's predicted, the timing, maybe the amount you can also calculate, right?
Yes.
So that would be the education expense for the kids. You have to have some savings on that. And of course, if you still have some money, you still put some money for your retirement expense, because you have to ensure that when we grow old, when we're getting old,
You don't want to pass on this sandwich generation that our kids have to take care of us.
Right, that's how to cut off this sandwich generation.
Yeah, it's like roast beef sandwich will be more delicious than this one. Well, when much definitely, we can't see sandwich or this term as a negative perspective, definitely, because it goes on to our tradition, especially we're living in Indonesia or the eastern regions. It's usually you're bound to be like this, right? And especially by having your parents depending on you, because we've always been taught when you grow older, then you're going to be the one that's going to take care of me because I took care of you when you were a child.
Yes.
So this has become not only, it's not only a term or a financial term, it becomes a tradition and also a culture for us.
Right.
In regards to what you already said, we do have a lot of homework, especially for the sandwich generation, but how can one optimize their investment, especially for the long-term
Of course, when we talk about the needs, the future needs, right? The investment
Yes.
is to ensure that our future needs are covered. So I think the best things is to start early. So I mean, as long as you know, if you creating your own family, then you know you have to take care of your family, but you have to also think about your parents. It's time to have like an open communication with your parents as well. I mean, like maybe what's your plan for your retirement? I mean, and then we can see, right? I mean, like, is my parents having enough assets?
Right.
You know,
You can assess
You
first.
can assess first before you talk to them, and then because what? Because then you have to ensure that you can cover them as well, right? And then. So when we start early, you have to identify the needs first, right? And then you have to, start allocating your money for the savings, right? And of course, when you do investment, you have to categorize your savings. Which one, for the short terms, and maybe like for your emergency fund, it should be ready for short terms,
Yes.
right? And then which one is for medium term, and then which one is for longer term. Like for example, your retirement fund, maybe for your longer
Long
term.
term.
Because what, if we categorize all these savings, then we can choose the right instruments as well. So I think that's important when you want to optimize your investment, because you have to choose, if it is a short term, maybe you don't need the one that is very aggressive. You need something that is, available whenever you need. So maybe the risk is low, but maybe the return is low. But you have to accept that, right? But if
Like
you,
accepting life.
accepting the fact that you are a
That's
sanitary.
right. That's right.
All right, and then if you're saving for a longer term, so that's why you can choose an instrument that is giving the more higher return with the more higher risk, but you can also put some another strategies to compensate the risk as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's it. You start early. You choose the right instruments, and then of course you have to be very disciplined.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That one is very hard, especially when you have the holiday or the Eid al-Fitr allowances. Sometimes you're so triggered to, spend it and splurge just a little bit when you actually, there's a lot of people dependent on you.
You don't know when the next one's gonna come by. And one of the things, like when you talk about sandwich generations, there's a husband, there's a wife, there's your brothers, your sisters, and then well, I give this much to our parents. Like, how about you? How about you? Or like, why are you giving this much to your parents? How about my parents? So the question's gonna be, what percentage of income should be allocated for monthly expenses for workers earning below minimum wage or around minimum wage?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, there's the allocation, the budget allocation that is normally people follow. That is the the 50, 30, 20, right? Yeah, I think for the sandwich generation, I think the savings part should be greater as well. Right? I mean, like, if you don't have to have like the loan, the installments of loan, I think it's better for you to focus on your savings. Right, and your expense, of course, you already have an expense, and you have to ensure that the expense that I mentioned earlier as well, right? So I think then we have to really focus on what is important, and that's why we have to minimize, the budgets for fun, for traveling, for entertainment, unless you have this 12 months of emergency funds already available. That's quite a lot, right? Right. So I think if you talk about the percentage, I think. Everyone's can be very different, but if you are, if you have the salary below the minimum wage, then even more harder. Even maybe you cannot afford to have loans or something. So that's why you still have to manage your savings. Saving is minimum 10%, but if you're sandwich generation, I think you need more than that, maybe 20. If you can have 30%, that is good. But again, you have to be very strict on your budget.
Yeah, and I think we're discussing this in the correct day. It is May Day, by the way. So, I mean, this is really a lot to put into your thoughts. And definitely, Metta, in regards to, you were saying that before that we have to start early by meaning or by definition. This is before you want to start to have your own family, maybe to how many children that you need. Or sorry, excuse me. I will rephrase that. How many children that would you want and would be applicable, I think, for the foreseeable future if you need to take care of your parents. Because as you were mentioning before, there's the monthly allowances that maybe you need to give to your parents because of tradition and culture. Yet alone, we need to have, savings that's liquidified, I think, because when you're more in a senior age, sometimes health problems can come in and go without, there's no warnings. It could just come like a tornado to you.
Yeah. So that's why I mentioned about, this education fund as well as, the insurance expense for health. Because those two, the education expense and the health expense is the ones that is, the inflation rate is higher than, the normal national rate. So, so that's the most things that we have to be very, very careful to put it into our budget. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And definitely that's why we need a financial planner, like even before your pre-wedding. Like, this is something, right?
Yeah. I mean,
so kind of like itemize and budgeting everything.
Yeah, some people said you have to talk about your finance with your couples before you get into the commitment.
That's right.
You know what's interesting was is you mentioned about education. So I put some money on the government bonds, and I calculated like, by the time she's gonna be going to junior high, I need this amount. And I just heard like how much parents have to pay for kindergarten nowadays.
Yes.
I was like, that's
It's like getting a doctor's degree right there.
Right. The education expense maybe 10% increase inflation every year.
I feel like more.
Yeah. And how much you get for the bonds return? 6 or 7, right?
6.2%.
Yeah, and the inflation is even below. So it's really outstanding the inflation, right? Yeah, we have to be put it into our calculation. So that's why, I mean, some people don't believe in insurance, right? But the health risk is actually available to any of us, right? So if you don't want to have insurance, you have to have a very big savings.
That's another option that you can take, right? To either or.
Either way, you have to save.
All right, of course, Metta, again, I think this is such a great discussion. Maybe one more before that we're going to conclude our discussion for today. It's going to be tough, but how can we say or how can we discuss, especially to our senior citizens, our beloved parents, in regards to about, how they're financial independent?
Yeah, I think we have to talk about it before they are getting...
They're still in the productive age.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think but I think nowadays, if I look at the Gen Z or millennials, they start saving, right? And then they talk to their parents, hey mom, dad, I started to have this stock investment and, there's a Bitcoin. And I think the parents will be opening up their horizons as well, right? If my kids is started to saving, maybe how about me? Maybe
it triggers them.
Yeah. And I think for kids, as a kid, as children, we have to start the conversation because before I think when we talk about money, it's kind of like taboo.
Yes.
But nowadays, it's necessary. It's necessary. So I think it's not that because I don't want to support you. It's because I want to prepare myself. How can I support you?
Yeah.
That's the way we have to start the conversation.
There's the language of love, right? And maybe it's a little bit hard in the first time, but it is going to be a fruitful one for your future, for your parents, yourself, and your future generation.
I think that's the key right there.
Yes.
You just have to talk about it.
Yes.
Right. Especially like you said, in our tradition, we have very guyup, right? We are supporting each other, right? So I think, because talking about this sandwich generation could be quite depressing, but I think let's just see it in a different way.
That's right.
That is actually it's a blessing that you can still support your parents.
Right.
And you can have children, and it's a happiness when you see them grow up.
That's right.
And live as a great, happy family.
There you go. See everything in a different perspective. And that's why I said, sandwich generation should not be a negative term. It should be a blessing.
Right.
Well, Metta, thank you very much for joining us right here in this May Day. It's definitely an eye-opener for all of us.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And indeed, we're going for another short break right now. In the meantime, please do stay connected with us at See Today News. We're on Instagram, x.com, and also YouTube. Many more stories and update coming up next.